Even though it's a competition and we want to win the prize, I do believe that we want to win the prize more for the status. The price, we can buy it actually. If you have enough money, you can actually purchase that, but you can't purchase the status. So today I want to talk to you about 3 lessons that I learned while doing this scoring competition. Now, yesterday I submitted my entry and it's online already. I'll leave the link in the description so you can go and check out my entry and give me your opinion and give me your feedback. Thanks a lot for all the comments already from some of you that have heard it. And I just want to share with you my approach to the composition and what I learned in the process. So number 1, break the rules. You have to be able to break the rules, and this is what I learned while I was doing this. I follow certain guidelines, and I noticed as well that there are certain ways that people do this, and one of them is to do it to a click and really decide and have some markers depending on where the scenes are and really change the tempo of your session depending on what's happening. In this case, there's a car chase, and there have been some recommendations to put a certain marker and increase the speed of your session or the tempo because it's going to be of a faster pace. So what I decided to do earlier on is that I'm going to do the exact opposite of that. So what I did is that my session or my composition is not to a click. I'm not following no click whatsoever. It's just very loose, and it's all down by feeling, by a natural pace or by a natural rhythm. When it comes down to speeding up, the music is just evolving with what I'm looking in the screen. So that's what I did earlier on. Now, that's just the approach that I had because I like to do things a little bit unconventional, and I want to do exactly the opposite of what I've been told in a way. And I do it my way. Obviously, I have a very good knowledge in terms of what the tempo should be. And it was a little bit of a challenge to get the whole music piece together because it was not recorded to a click, but my click was the scene. And I was just following what was happening, what I was looking in the scene, in the movie, and that will determine my tempo, my speed. And that's the way I did it. And it's very loose. My music composition is very loose. It's it's not perfect in time at all. And it's not quantized either. It's just being played. All the drums have been played with my fingers on the keyboard. And they just been arranged as I go along, maybe with a mouse a little bit here and there to make sure that they're a little bit in time, I guess, with the sequence of what's happening in the actual movie clip. And that's the first thing I decided to do earlier on because I wanted to be a little bit more flexible. I wanted to be a little bit more organic as well. And I refused the temptation to quantize. I refused the temptation to be so rigid. I wanted to be more loose. So that's number 1, break the rules, or that's the lesson that I learned. I wanted to break the rules, and I found it very challenging, but at the same time I felt very free to experiment with different sounds and with tempos and be very organic and loose and not be so rigid when it comes down to the click. I didn't record at all with a click. My click was the scenes, and this is a very unconventional way. People don't usually do it like this, and that was just my approach. Okay. Number 2, I learned as well to work on a tight deadline, and this quite clearly takes some time. Somebody asked me how long that it took me. It took me a couple of hours, but that was done in a matter of a few days. So meaning that I worked a little bit, maybe an hour or 2 in the very early stage just to set the tone of my composition. And then I picked it up again the next day and did a little bit, and then probably 3 more days passed by without me doing anything. And then recapping whatever I've done. So I will say a couple of hours I spent on this composition, maybe 4 or maybe 6 hours in total from start to finish if you put them all together, but it was very sporadically. It was very spread out, if you will. So doing that, I set myself a limitation of not only of instruments and deciding that I'm not going to record to a click, and I have very limited time. But in my head, even though I set up myself a very tight deadline and limitations, at the same time, I have an audience. I have people that are looking to see what I'm gonna come up with. I have students who are looking up to what am I gonna do with this scoring competition. They're really curious to see what's gonna be my take on this composition. So there's a lot of pressure on that as well. Or I wouldn't say pressure. I think it's more responsibility, because I'm not just submitting to the actual competition. I'm submitting something and I'm doing it in public, and I have my students and my followers and people that are learning from me as well, checking out what I'm doing as this is happening. And I feel like I have a responsibility as well to show my students and people that are learning from me that it is possible to do, and this is how I do it. So it better be good, my composition, and it better be original, because I've heard what other people did in the beginning. I've heard one or two submissions. I didn't hear that many, and I noticed a lot of things. And I noticed that we composers, we want to do our own thing, and we do the best we can. And I wanted to really leave my mark as well, in a way, and participate and be part of this community. And that's very important for me. It's very important for you as well, I'm sure. And finally, number 3, a lesson that I learned while doing this composition is that we composers that are participating on this, we want to be heard. I want to be heard. I want my music to live out there on not only on my YouTube channel, but as well, I want other composers and other people to listen to my composition, to listen to my approach. And I know that this is true for you as well. If you're taking part in this competition, you want your music to be heard. You want to be acknowledged. You want to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm participating as well in this scoring competition. This is my entry. And that's a wonderful thing. And I think that us composers that are participating in this, even though it's a competition and we want to win the prize, I do believe that we want to win the prize more for the status than more than for the price. The price, we can buy it actually. If you have enough money, you can actually purchase that, but you can't purchase the status. You can't just go and say, hey, I won this competition. So I think that a lot of composers are going for that. And for me, it's the same. I'm human like you, but I have a bigger responsibility. For me, the responsibility, like I mentioned, is that I know that you want to be heard, and I want to be heard as well. And I want to teach that even though this is something that I don't do on a regular basis, this is my take, and this is what I do. And I do it like this, okay? I don't do it like that. I don't do it like the others. And this is how I separate myself from the crowd. And hopefully you can do the same thing. And it's just one of those things. We want to be heard. We want our music to be acknowledged, regardless of the outcome. I'm really happy with this competition. I had a lot of fun. I cannot tell you. I wanted to finish it so I can just carry on with my life. But while I was doing it, I had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fears and insecurities were popping up because it's something a little bit out of my comfort zone. But I really had to address those issues and really go the way I do things, the way that I would like it to sound, and not like the others. And I said, I'm not gonna do the same thing I'm not gonna do the thing that is expected, really. And how can you do that, okay? And try to be as original as possible in my own way. And regardless of what happens or the outcome, I am very happy to put this out in the world. And I even put a title to the music track because it's my music, and I believe it deserves to have a name. And I think it's a work of art, the same way that it's a work of art, the scene that we got from them. I saw the scene many times, like you, as we're composing, and the more you see the scene and what's happening, you realize how much effort and work it goes into the filming, into the editing, the sound effects as well, which I try to respect as much as possible. And I had my own approach to composition. Now, because my composition was so fluid and so loose, I tried to work with little chunks of the scenes, and I really wanted the music to breathe. And that was really a good exercise for me. And I was practicing a lot of self-control. I noticed that one mistake that a lot of composers will make is that they try to put too much music and into the actual sequence, like a lot of things happening and very loud in volume. So I did exercise a lot of self-control and a lot of less is more. What instruments are going to be here? What's the theme of this score of mine. What my entry has to have a theme. It has to have certain instruments, certain melodies, and it has to be at a certain level. So another trick that I did is that I went online and saw different scenes of TV shows, and I have seen enough TV shows on Netflix like you, so I have an idea of what's the level of the music track when it comes down to a certain scene. So, but I want to make sure that it's in the ballpark at least, because in the beginning we as composers, when we're entering stuff like this, we want our music to really cut through. And one mistake is to put the mix too loud, so you can't even hear the sound effects, or you can't even hear what the persons are talking, the dialogues, and that's a big mistake. And I really had to mix my music with the sounds of the clip, of the movie clip, to be just right there. So when you listen to the music, or when you see the film, the scene, you can barely, not you can barely hear it. The music is there, but it's not in your face, because I'm not promoting my music. This is not a video clip, and it's not a trailer. Trailers tend to have the music very, very loud. This is a clip, or this is a scene, and the actual series. This is part of what's happening on an episode. So that was a real good exercise for me as well, to compose the music. In the beginning, obviously, the music in the mix is really loud. I know that's not going to be the end product, but then you bring it down so you can hear the sound effects, and the music can live with the movie clip. It just marries. There's a sweet spot that I found for myself, but that became a revelation much later on in the process. In the beginning, I didn't know this. In the beginning, I was just carried away with the music composition. And as time passed by, I noticed that I need to bring the music down in volume so I can hear what the movie is saying, and the sound effects, and the gunshots, and all of this. You can't just bury that underneath. The music should be really low, and obviously when we're being the mixers, I'm trying to, or mixing my own music, I'm trying to think as an editor. I mean, that the editor is, like, again, it's not a video clip. It's not a video clip for my music. The music is serving the actual clip itself. So that was a very good exercise. So practice a lot of self-control, and really minimal approach to music composition. And I use a lot of silence as well as part of my score, meaning that just because there's music happening, that doesn't mean that it's going to be throughout. At the end of a scene, or at the end of a certain part, when there was a change of scene or a transition, I use a lot of silence and sound design as well, to mark the ending of that piece of music, that it was going with this scene or this transition at that moment. So, and there was silences. There was a lot of silence, and then something else. I use a lot of ambient noises to create my own atmospheres, and try to get away from the classical orchestral composition with the whole orchestral happening classic approach. So I wanted to do my own thing. So anyways, again, I hope this video finds you well. I hope that you're doing fantastic wherever you are. If you're still working on this composition, I really wish you all the luck and all the best. Hope the winner will enjoy the prizes and the status as well. I hope I don't win, because I don't have enough space on my computer to put all that sound libraries. I will have to upgrade my computer immediately. And yes, I hope this video finds you well. I hope wherever you are, you're doing fantastic. If you're still working on your scoring competition, remember that it's just music. It's about having fun. I had a lot of fun, and I try to take the pressure off by acknowledging that I can just have fun with it. It's not something so serious, really, and it's only music. So take the pressure off yourself, and so much. So you don't sound so rigid. So you don't not so scared to submit your music or to compose what you really want to compose. Again, I hope this video finds you well. And as always, rock and roll, and here's to your success.